guys, and welcome to episode 5 of the On Track Mind podcast. As you can tell by the title, I'm joined by the TRT World Endurance team. Unfortunately, Tom Oliver had personal commitments, so I grabbed him for a quick chat. So I'll insert mine and his conversation just before we get into the bulk of the podcast with Tom Ward and David Shoubridge.
So obviously you did the Boulder last year?
Yeah, end of last year.
So you've just done the Le Mans 24 hours. You've dipped your toe into endurance, but how did it being, right, this is a full team effort for the whole year, the whole season, how did it change your mindset going into it?
To be fair, like going into Boulder, it was like the complete unknown. So it was sort of, I didn't know what to expect, and like it was properly thrown in at the deep end. And like 8 hours into the race, my body was just completely knackered and was like properly regretting it in the middle of the night. But this time, having like more preparation, the three of us going into it, it was sort of much better prepared, and enjoyed it like massively because of that. Yeah, it was mega.
Yeah. So obviously David started, he started and Tom finished.
Yeah,
so
that's right. Yeah.
So if you've been sort of in the middle, sort of waiting around, how did you sort of feel watching them do that? But like seeing David run across and try and get the bike, like, how did you spectate that, knowing you don't have to start or finish? How did that?
Well, like the first stint is always chaos. So
especially this year.
it was like mayhem. So that first lap, if you can make it through that, then like, you know, it's like sort of you're ready for the race sort of thing. Just exactly, settling in. So just seeing him get through that first lap was the main thing, and then once you pass that, it's like, right, game on, let's go.
Yeah. So obviously it's totally different from any other race meetings, if you even BSB and stock and everything like that, because you're riding hours and hours on end. Obviously you have breaks in between, but you don't really sleep. You don't really catch up. So how did it feel like mentally, like when you're so physically drained? Like, did you ever think, oh, shit, like, do I really have to be here? Or
oh god, yeah. So like there was one, it was probably about, so when Tom had his crash, it was about 3 in the morning, and the oil cooler pipe burst. So he's like, the unwritten rule in endurance is you have to get the bike back to the pits by yourself. So we're thinking like, shit, where is he? And he's like, bless him, turned up, managed to get it back. It's like 4 degrees outside, middle of the night, and he's turned up out the back of the awning or garage. And I'm like trying my best to get a bit of rest. Like I'm in the race truck, got my eye mask on, like just in my boxers, like chilling out. And I've come out like pretty much naked. I'm like, do I need to get my kit on? Everyone's burst out laughing, and like they're like, no, he's all right. Like he's gonna go again. So that at that point, I'm thinking, shit, this could just be me and Shuey for like the last 12 hours. Like we're gonna have to finish this by ourselves. So I've gone back into the truck, and I've like put my eye mask and that back on, and I thought I could actually run away right now. Like I could just, no one would know I'm here by myself. Like I could just run away and like not have to deal with any of this. And then I was like, no, sort yourself out. Like you're having some dark thoughts now. Like just gonna let them get on with it and just be Shuey on his own.
Oh my god! And obviously with Tom's crash, you did lose a few laps. But you made it up because you got 19th overall, 8th or 9th in class?
8th in class in the end,
So, and that's phenomenal. The fact you've kind of rocked up, yes, you've done some endurance before, and the fact you sort of, new team, obviously you guys all get on, but new team effort. How did it feel when you had your first stint after that? Would you think, fuck, I really need to push this? Or did you sort of think, no, I need to keep going consistently?
Yeah, I think after doing Boulder, I had that mindset where I was like, every single session I was just going to push to the maximum. But then going into, like, I fatigued really bad there. So going into this race, it was more a fact of like, this is the lap time that we know is going to be enough to be competitive. And if I can stick to that, like physically, or if I feel like I've got more, just stay to what I know is going to be enough to be competitive. Because the mistake I made at Boulder was like pushing to the maximum every session, And then at the end, like last 12 hours, I just had nothing left. I was just rinsed. So this time it was more a case of like pace yourself and then still be competitive at the end, which I think, you know, is the way to do it. But then if you're chasing that like podium and you need to push at the end, you've got that bit in reserve sort of thing.
And obviously through your race career, I'm pretty sure you'll agree with me in saying that this is probably the most grueling situation you've had to go through. So looking back on everything you've done prior to Le Mans, kind of wish, I really don't know how to word it. Not like you wish you enjoyed what you've done before, because you're still enjoying this.
Yeah.
But it's just a lot more draining. It's mentally and physically. So do you kind of wish you were like, oh, maybe I'll jump back on a stock bike and...
Yeah, I mean, like, certainly not done with that, like, sprint racing by any sense at all. But me and Tom were talking about it earlier, and he made, like, a good point that it's sort of like, it's like secondary fun where in the moment you're not enjoying it. And, like, in the middle of the night and that, you're thinking, why am I here? Like, this is just torture. Yeah. But then afterwards you sit back and you're like, what an achievement. And it was
hit you.
Yeah, exactly. It's sort of the emotions and that once you finish, you're like, this, like, it was just amazing sort of thing.
Yeah.
And as soon as it was done, like, we're just buzzing for the next one. Yeah. So
welcome back to On Track Mind. This is episode 5 of the podcast. I'm joined by 2/3 of TRT stock team who've just come back from Le Mans. We're here at Hertfordshire at Pottersbar at Mint Installs, where the boys have been working on their bikes, getting ready for Donington this weekend. So, how you doing?
Good, all good.
Yes, very good.
Herbert, he's been really struggling, hasn't he?
He's not recovered from Le Mans yet.
No, he's not recovered from birth, actually.
He never kind of improved.
He really struggles to bounce his way through the day.
I do.
Typically doesn't allow enough time for anything.
Yeah.
Especially lap times. We'll talk about that later, I suppose.
So, for the most basic question, how did you both find Le Mans, just in general? Like, the experience?
It was so easy, to be honest. It was like probably the easiest thing I've ever done.
I actually found it probably...
David couldn't stop crying.
I actually found it easier because the others, jokes aside, the one that can't be here right now, because he's massively pussy whipped.
We're missing Tom Oliver. We have got a segment with him.
This is his suit. I'm actually touching his arse right now. But he struggled a lot actually with Boldor before, and that was the first one that Tom did. So he came and joined me. I did Spa with TRT. Yeah, that's my first 24-hour endurance. Yeah, and thought I was going to be a massive fish out of water, and found that actually I was the quickest rider in the team, and with like coupled with some other people that have got some, or ideally got some stock 1000 experience, but you know, anybody else really that was comparable for the British paddock would work really well, you know, as teammates, and we could actually compete. So spoke to Tom, and he was like quite tied in at the time doing the stock 1000 thing, weren't you, with Aprilia? And then Tom Oliver came to Boldor.
Yes, yeah.
He didn't really know what he was up for or what he was up against, but physically he struggled more than I think he thought he was going to. But you didn't find it that bad, did you?
No, I didn't. Like, I did, and I didn't like. It's one of those things. I think it's more like mentally. It is like physically demanding, but the hardest part is getting like back out in between the stints. Yeah. It's not physically. It's not actually too. Yeah, if you rest for too long, like if you don't like hydrate and like your nutrition isn't. If you don't eat anything or don't drink anything, it's the same as like doing a marathon. If you under fuel, you're not going to like make it to the end. So it's the same bit. Like the mental thing of like getting back on the bike, like especially when it's like in the morning, in like the middle of the night, like when it's dark and stuff, and like. You have time to yourself, and if you're trying to like have a bit of a sleep or whatever, then like waking back up and then being like, "Fuck, I've got to get back on the bike in like 20 minutes."
Yeah. Did you guys sleep at all? Because I've seen people talk about how they just didn't sleep because they'll just feel shit if they do.
I did on one. I did on one of the stints towards the end. You didn't.
I didn't once. No, but I can't really sleep. Like I can't sleep unless I'm like in a cave. I literally am. I didn't sleep for like 4 nights, like properly before the week.
Like, we literally had to take it in turns to stroke his hair. and
it was the only way to get me.
The other one was feeding him his milk.
And massage my feet.
Yeah, he likes that as well.
It's the only way to get me to sleep.
But I think you've got much more like not endurance in terms of, well, you have got endurance racing, but with the push bike stuff, you've done quite a lot of stuff.
I think it's
like
just
stupid long push bike ride.
Yeah, we did like a 10-hour cycle, or like it was meant to be like a 12-hour cycle. It was a 10-hour cycle. It was on one of those like static bikes. It was called. It was like an Everest. Yeah, at the beginning of lockdown. It was called like the Everest Challenge. So you basically go up the same elevation as Everest, but on a static push bike, like indoors. And we did it. There was like maybe like 7 or 8 of us that did it for charity.
Yeah.
It was like it wasn't grim. It's like anything.
If you all the money
I did. We all like that funded like partial sponsorship for the year.
Charity starts at home. But they all got a season's race now. It's pretty sweet. No, but I think like genuinely with the preparation for it,
that's a big thing, isn't it?
Yeah, well, that was something that I think is easier to manage when you know what you're in for. Like, definitely you'll think the next one will be easier.
Easier, yeah, I think so. Yeah,
and I think for me they've got easier each time. But when you said about the sleep, I only slept on one of the stints, and I found it was much harder. Yeah,
they say that because it's something to do with like cortisol or something, and you release
your
something.
Cortisol levels rise.
Yeah, and basically then you feel shitter, and then you like it's harder to get.
Ones when you was up, but at the start, I find it's exciting, isn't it? Especially when you start coming into the night.
That's what I think.
Like different layers.
If you have that, it's all like it's so mental. Like if we started off and we were in like 3rd place or something, you'd be on such a high, like especially going into the night, because you're like can't make any mistakes, like got to keep your position. But then I felt mint, like come in. It was actually the session when Chewy come in, I was just like buzzing. It was like 3 a.m. and you jumped off the bike and we was like jumping around hugging, and I went out and was like singing and sort of like laughing at my helmet, and then come round. It's fucking so typical. It was like lap 2 and I was like, this is so sick. It's like pitch black, there's fireworks going off, there's bikes on fire. I was like, this is insane. Then come around the next corner and was like flying through the air. I actually cleared the Dunlop Bridge at the high side of that big, cleared the bridge and like came down in La Chapelle. And no, but then like because I had the oil cooler pipe split, which David keeps on saying I kicked off when I was riding around, just so I didn't want to carry on.
I don't want to get involved in the team politics.
There was actually no video of it either, and it was honestly, genuinely one of the biggest high sides I've ever had. And I come back, I was like, boys, I don't know how I've got away with that, and they're like, yeah, we don't know whether you're even being honest or not because we haven't seen it.
It's like a big thing in endurance. Like if you're in a really strong position and you've already put the pressure on and other people are starting to sort of fold around you, then it's just about maintaining, just knocking laps off, not necessarily taking any risks. So it might have been that I was able to stay with him, but nonetheless, like you pinch yourself at like 3 o'clock in the morning thinking, like, how has this happened?
Yeah.
Like, you're at Spa in the summer. I was really lucky with the weather. It was absolutely banging. But the point I was trying to make was, like, with preparing yourself for it, our 3rd rider, that was with 2 other riders, Gian Martins, who's quite a circuit specialist at Spa, and another guy called GP, Gian. I can't even remember Gian.
Pedro,
Bianco.
Pedro Bianco.
Anyway, he, our slowest rider out of the 3 of us, crashed on the 5th hour. And initially, like, I was really excited, and it works where if you've got reserve riders, they only count up to they only count up. They only count. The idea of having a reserve rider is that if one of your main 3 riders crash in the practice or qualifying, then he can step in and your 4th rider can also qualify. But the minute the race starts, if one of your 3 riders goes down, that's it. You're stuck with 3 riders, as I say, for Spa. One of them crashed on the 5th hour, and initially my reaction, in my naivety, having not done a 24-hour, was yes, the slowest rider is out. Plus, it means more track time for us.
Oh, you're a bit regretting that.
Oh my god! Like that was the hardest thing. We did 19 hours with 2 riders.
Yeah. And
it was just like, honestly, I was an absolute shell of a man at the end of it.
Yeah.
But it's obviously going to get easier than that. But this one, I think, felt the most relaxed because, like, well, we're all mates at the end of the day. So there's like that takes a big bit of the pressure away, doesn't it?
That makes a massive difference, I think, as well. Like going like after a stint, like if you come in, like if you say you come in and you've had like a half decent stint or whatever, and the next person's like doesn't look excited to go out, but you're like, or say you've come off of a really good stint, and then the next person's like quite low, then like, oh, it's fucking so sick out there, like it's. Do you know what I mean? Then straight away you're sort of like G'd up even more.
It gives you more motivation to keep going.
Like
you don't want to undo their work as well.
No, and as well, like if you get off a bike, it's probably way more of like a job almost, like for like the top riders in like if they're in superbike teams. Some of them might not even speak. Like you might get a Japanese rider get off and then speak to a French rider, and then just sort of be like thumbs up, and then it's like, oh, next one on the bike.
There's no personality, and like you can't have that closeness, that bond.
No.
Certainly, like seeing the contrast that I have. So, as in riding with two riders, a Belgique guy and a French guy, which is what I started off with at TRT.
Yeah.
I didn't have like that, like camaraderie wasn't really there so much because I didn't know these guys.
So it can be quite hard to keep pushing yourself through.
Riders are were really sound, and we got on really well. We had a good crack and everything else, and I think most racers have got that in common, and you're going to have a laugh typically, unless they're a complete bell end. But,
just like Shuri, like he proper pisses me off all the time.
But yeah, unless you're with somebody that like lies about crashing on order, no, honestly though, I've seen it when you don't know the other riders, and I have to say, when I was in Spa, obviously, like you go back to BSB, and like you want to be able to explain it to people, like how sick it was, or how good this was, how good that was. And people are like, yeah, all right, mate, it's just another race weekend. You don't really take it.
Honestly, I remember going to Alton Park, and obviously I was riding with the Aprilia team last year, and Tom Oliver came in at that point, like, because he had like stopped riding the Suzuki, and then he started riding for Aprilia that they run like a third bike. And Tom turned up, and like I was like, oh, what do you think of the bike? Like, because obviously to me, like from riding a Suzuki to Aprilia, like the Aprilia is like, it's all round like a better bike. It's like, not taking anything away from the Suzuki, but like you look at the Aprilia, it's like a proper race bike. And I was like, what's that?
It's like newer technology.
It's like newer technology. Like the way it's like a 2016 MotoGP bike. Do you know what I mean? So like the chassis, everything is just like mega. And I was like proper excited to see how much he loved it. And he was like, oh yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's not too bad. Yeah. And he was like, oh, like, and started talking about world endurance. And I was like, you've just ridden around for like 24 hours. It must be like savage. Like, and he was just like so buzzing about it's so good. And I was like, is he actually all right? And he got to the end of the weekend and he was still the same. Then we went to the next round and he was still the same. And I thought, it proper made me think straight away. I was like, he's so excited about this. Yeah. And, you know, all we've ever known is BSB, and you get so caught up in it, don't you? And
BSB is sick. Like, it has, obviously, it's been well.
It's got its pros and cons, isn't it?
But yeah, definitely.
I think the atmosphere and everything, like the people, the people at like, it is completely two different things. Like you go from, I'm sure it's probably different in like top teams when you're getting paid as a rider in like BSB and that. But even like in our team, like they literally treat you like you are like Valentino Rossi. It's just it's so nice though, and they want to do as much for you as possible, and they kind of give you like, I guess, the respect that you probably do deserve.
It's hard when you have like a team owner and you hear stories of people having like a shit team owner, and they're strict on them. They don't give them that sort of, not give them slack, but there's no space for them to move around and like be comfortable.
You can understand if the person's getting paid, if the person's there to do a job and the rider's getting paid, you can understand when like a team manager starts to go, right, you need to really pull your finger out your ass and not keep on crashing or this or that. But that's the difference, isn't it?
I think another big thing is actually the bike time. Like obviously, I was down to two riders, as in me and Gian at Spa. In that one race alone, I did 2 full seasons of Ducati Tri-Options, which is what obviously I was doing.
It is mental,
in
like
one race, 2 whole seasons. That's including practice and qualifying sessions. Obviously, the Ducatis get like very little time, or they did.
But it's still,
But even still, each race
in
with
stock
3 riders is a full season of stock 1000 racing at BSB.
Yeah.
So the point I was trying to make is, like, I think naturally most people, unless you're like Franco Bourne coming back from round 1 at Silverstone, I think most people come away from a race weekend, or very few people don't, come away from a race weekend with some form of disappointment, because it's a good platform with BSB, and they've got a good audience, and it's a wicked domestic championship, but it's short-lived, and it's like quick burst. And like the amount of weekends you come home having spent a fortune, and you're so disappointed with like what you've done.
Do you know what it's a bit like? I've only just thought about this now. It's a bit like a round of golf. Not that I really play golf that much, but like you've got like 18 holes, and how many shots you take over the course. Like you can. It's the same with an endurance race. Like you could have one stint that's mega, and like you string a mega amount of laps, and you sit behind like someone who you've idolised, like a world superbike rider or whatever. You could just have that one thing, but then also have like the massive crash at 3 a.m. and like the mental side of getting over that. You still there's always something positive to take back from it. Whereas
there's just so much more.
There's so much more to
opportunity to redeem
what you've learn as well. Like if you do, like you say, like you had that crash and went back out, and it wasn't like you went slower or like was like, oh, it's kind of got to my head, because you can instantly go straight back out. You can then like overcome what you've just done. So it's like, whereas a BSB race, say you crash it like lap 5 of the main race, you then got to wait like 2 weeks before you go back again. Then you're sort of like and ahhing, but
you're letting it sit in your head, and you're sort of overthinking it. And
and it's so easy to do that, especially like when I come in from the high side at like 3 a.m, come back in, and I'm thinking like, obviously I knew I'd either ridden over oil or the bike had like had something happen. So then when I come back in, I'm sort of like thinking, oh, was it me? Was it the bike? Was it? Because we didn't actually 100% know at the time. And then Shuey was there, and I'm like, I've just like literally had a massive crash. Like I'm like, how I don't even know like how I got up from it,
because it was like 5 degrees and. Overnight,
and then it's like mentally. I thought the race was over.
Bike back yourself, don't you?
Yeah.
How the fuck did you manage
that?
I
literally just had to push the bike back, and then which actually wasn't where I was at Dunlop. It was like and most of it was downhill. I had to push one bit uphill. Then I thought the race was over, because there's obviously oil, fuel everywhere. Then they got the bike back. Then the guy come to check, so I'd obviously whacked my head pretty hard. Did a FIM, had to take my helmet, check that. Then she was like, "Are you up for going back out? Like if you can?" I'm thinking, like, no, I don't reckon I can. I'm pretty. That was pretty big. And then he was like, I think like you just need to get your kit back on and go back out.
Fire your way through.
And you do, you literally, and within like 2-3 laps, I was just like, well, if it's going to happen again, it's going to happen again. There's nothing you can do about it.
And it's quite like, it takes it back to basics. It's like when you're first starting to learn how to ride a motorbike, you have to get back on it as soon as you crash. Because I freaked myself out, got back on it, and I was still freaked out because I'd left it for so long. So whether you're learning or racing at a professional level, you've just got to push yourself through that mindset. Otherwise, you're going to sit there and.
I think the other thing is as well with the endurance is it's such a team game. Like more than most things, most sports, in fact, because of the enormity of it, particularly in a 24-hour. Like our team, I think there's 44 people in the team in total.
Yeah.
You know.
The atmosphere has to be good, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Otherwise, you actually probably wouldn't do it. Exactly, like if the people in the team and your teammates were crap,
like, there's so much like, and it's not like a burden either. It's not like a weight. Like, a bit almost. I'd probably say a bit like. Obviously, I've not done a TT, but you know, like if you can do a TT, you're a hero, right?
Yeah. It's almost like
It's like almost just for completing it, you're hailed a hero, and it's like with the endurance. I think it's so respected by everybody, you know, even down to what Tom was just saying then, like getting back out, like getting back on it. The short circuit mentality might be, I'm concussed, or
like straight away.
Do you know what I mean? Reasons, because you know that you need to perform at that absolute. Like,
and you want to shut yourself off when you feel like you can't.
If you don't feel like 100%, then you're not confident that you're going to be able to go out there and do it. Whereas at the endurance, there's enough time to get over that. Like obviously when Tom went back out, like he was riding like an absolute melon. It was embarrassing for everyone. And like, you know, don't get me wrong, there was a good hour where 44 people at least thought he's a proper helmet for even getting back on.
Well, that's most weekends then, isn't it?
Yeah, literally.
But you know, he was able to redeem that marginally.
So obviously you've done Spa and the one now, but Tom, this was like your first experience really. So how did you find, because obviously you jumped straight off a stock 1000 straight into endurance, how did you find that transition on your mentality really? Like how much you have to change your mindset on it?
I mean, to be honest, it's like I guess like doing BSB for however like many years and like sort of like building up and like coming off like a half decent year last year, there's like quite a lot of like, if I was to go back into what I was doing, I'd obviously want to pick up where I left off and go better even more. So if I was to go back into stock foul like this year, I would like want to be consistently on the podium and like challenging for the title. Whereas going over to this, it's like actually quite nice because it's a complete, that I can't tell you how much of like a breath of fresh air it is, because there's no expectation, there's no like no one's like, I haven't put any pressure on myself, but there's no pressure from mine, there's no pressure from the team, and you're like back to an underdog. It's like starting from scratch. It's like going back to BSB and starting off in like stock 600 and like you got to work your way up, but it's such a nice like atmosphere, and I think with the people like teammates and stuff like that, I don't know. It's like
it's like the other thing as well. It's got such a festival vibe to it.
Yeah,
so like,
Well, the videos that you put on your story of those on mopeds,
mental,
fucking ridiculous.
The campsites are actually insane.
Yeah,
and like I think certainly a spoiler for me because I absolutely hate. I was a little shit at school because I hate being told what to do, and unfortunately, it's a bit health and safety gone mad, and that's just like the nature of everything. Well, it's not just BSB, like just everything in general.
It's UK, isn't it? Yeah.
Especially in the last couple of years.
You go to France,
it's like arse covering, isn't it? Like,
yeah,
everyone has to cover their arse.
It's because of like insurance and all.
Whereas at the World Endurance, like I'm not joking. There's like you get like 8 people on a quad bike, like on each other's shoulders, just roaming about. When I was at Boldor, there was like all these like they're obviously like racers or fans or whatever, or club racers and their children, and there was literally about 10 kids, and they must have been about 6 or 7 years old, all with their full levers on mini motos. And the dads are like, right, see you later then, boys. Like, they just come back to the camp just to fill their bikes up.
And then go out again.
Off-road and things. Like, in the south of France, it's quite hot and dusty and tracks and whatnot. These kids are just off, like, roaming about.
That's
and
mental.
You think at BSB, like, sometimes you pay so much money, like, you want to go and enjoy it. And, like, for me, I liked riding motorbikes when it first started out for me, like, tearing around on probably a bit of land that you shouldn't even be on. Do you know what I mean? Like and it felt like you were free. So you could describe particularly Le Mans, but the EWC and its fans in its entirety, it's almost like saying to 100,000 petrol heads, this is your last day on earth. Fucking bring what you
go mad
and do your worst. And it is literally like, do you remember Le Mans at like 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning or something? It seemed like there was loads of fog, like the last bit of the circuit.
On the last,
you could see on the TV. Like I was even riding around the mice tin thinking, like surely they're going to have to bring a safety car out because you can't. You literally
couldn't see. It was actually smoke from all the bikes.
From the campsite.
And they get these bikes and they fill the bikes up, like they put down the exhaust pipes, they just fill them up with oil. And there's probably like, I don't know, we went on Thursday night, so like probably 80% of the people aren't even there. But on like a Saturday night, there's got to be like over 150 bikes, like probably more than that, at least 150 bikes bouncing off the limiter. These bikes would take us by. So you imagine all of them pluming out smoke. That's half the track. No, they don't. They're just like.
Go there for the absolute
shits and gigs.
Literally, like it's like walking through a war zone.
We were there, and it was like back when I was in Baghdad.
It's wicked though. But that's a good thing I found. This one in particular, like it was sick at Boldor having Tom there in contrast to Spa. Because it was like having my mate there. So it was like, did you just see that?
Yeah.
Did you see the quad bike or those kids I just said about on the mini motos? And like this time, we ventured out. Like Super Socko with Well Sound, and they sponsor us like a electric scooter for each round, and it's quite funny because we're going into like a helm of petrol heads, like which are just fucking mad about backfiring their motorbike,
and they're like trying to get us to rev the scooter up, and obviously they realise they're like
Tesla push mopeds basically. Cool to do it like as a trio of mates, you know what I mean? And we were like.
It makes it more fun and enjoyable.
Definitely.
You embrace it more, enjoy it more, and I thought it was mega on that front. That
was good.
Really enjoyed that.
So, sort of, obviously you had your crash at 3 AM.
Yeah.
Coming back, did you ever think I could just bolt right now. I'm going to go. I don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah. So funny.
Tom said he did, yeah.
We, like, I thought that was the end of the race. Then when I come back and then I was obviously, like, then you go from, like, this high to then this low and you're like, I was just thinking, like, I don't want to go back out on the bike because kind of like you're almost worrying, like, oh, is it going to happen again?
Yeah.
Like, especially with something like that, it just completely comes out of the blue. Like, you can understand, like, if you're pushing too hard and like going a second, 2 seconds a lap quicker, and you're having moments all the time, and all of a sudden you're pinged through the air.
Yeah.
But then when I come back in, I just sort of thought, like, I don't know, you get over it quite quick. But then I think it was 2 stints after that, I was a bit like, not I didn't want to go out, but it's like, oh, I've got to go out now.
Yeah.
But Tom goes, so when I come in, I'd only done 2 laps. So Tom was like in the back, in between sessions, you go into the back of the truck and you get like a massage and you sort of like eat and drink, and then you kind of like chill out, have a bit of a sleep. And then I got back and I was sort of like a bit like, because it's like 3 a.m, you're like half asleep and you're like, has that really just happened? Have I like had a crash? And so then, I think you were there, weren't you?
Yeah.
And then,
I was trying to
like,
say you're all right,
he was like, "Are you all right?" I think everyone was a bit, because I'd obviously like whacked my head. And then Tom's just come out of the of the back of the truck with like an eye mask on up here, like in his pants. Or did he have like a towel around him?
Like he'd been to like Hawaii.
Yeah, he looked like he was being like pampered, like you know, when they pull the cucumber off their eyes. And he was like, "Are you all right?
He went,
are you all right?
Shall I get my kit on? Do I need to get my kit on?" Like all worried face. It was well funny.
And then he went back inside. But he said to us the next day, he was like, at that point, like I then had to go back out for like a 55-minute stint.
Yeah.
And he said that he was apparently lying there and he went to himself, I could just run away right now.
That's what he told me.
I could just run away and no one would know, and no one would find me. But you do have them kind of thoughts, because it's a bit like, I've said it multiple times, but it's a bit like asking someone halfway through a marathon, are you having a good time? Like, are you enjoying yourself? Like, no one's going to say yes, are they?
So I think I was quite lucky, like having done Spa with 2 riders.
Yeah.
I can't imagine it could ever get harder than that. So like Spa's a really physical circuit.
I can imagine it being pretty savage. That's why it's probably quite good, because then you're like, everything now that you've done is getting better and better.
I couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah.
We were doing back-to-back stints.
Did you think that when I crashed, did you think that you might have to do...
I thought that, if you were
concussed,
really?
Well, because if you were concussed, like, really, that was only, 3 in the morning when you
It would have been the same, How many hours? We've done 12 hours.
We've done 12 hours, so we'd have done half the race. That's the other thing to get your head around. Like, to think,
you'll be at 3 a.m.
like
and it's only half of it done.
Oh, yeah. I was like, we're actually not far from the end. But then when the sun comes up, like the sun come up for my stint, didn't it? That's weird as well, because like you're riding around half the track, like you're coming into turn 1, turn 2, and it's literally like getting bright, and then you go around down the back straight and it's still dark, like, and then you've obviously got all the smoke and stuff. It's really like weird, but obviously then you come back to life as soon as the sun comes up. You're like, it's a bit like.
I think Spa was easier on that part, because Spa for some reason goes from 12 till 12.
Oh, so you knew you're like halfway or like
local time, but for some reason, Le Mans, and I heard this on somebody else's podcast, I don't think anyone really knows why, but it starts at 3 and it always has done, so it runs 3 till 3.
Yeah.
But the problem is, like, you get up, like, what time did you get up on a race day? Like, we're probably up at 7 in the morning.
Yeah, we were,
so you think you've already been up.
You were up at like 10 to 9.
Yeah.
Like 4 minutes before the session.
Yeah.
That was one of the worst. On 2 occasions, I actually had to stay in my levers because they were looking for Shoey. I would be like getting a massage, and I've obviously just done a stint. Tom's out for like 55 minutes, whatever. I'm getting like a massage, trying to get some food and drink on board. And then this guy called Steve comes in. Was it Steve? Yeah, Steve comes in. And he's like, has anyone seen Shoey? We can't find him. Like this. Yeah. And I'm thinking, oh, fucking hell, I'm going to have to get changed back into my level. And then it was on the second to last one, I think. And then he just come in with like, you have a countdown like 3, 2, 1 on the pit board, so you know when you're out. Yeah. And I've literally got all my stuff there, like literally zipped up, everything ready to go. And then Shoey just walked in and said, I'm out. Like that. And just jumps on the bike. Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
That's the only bit.
The other good thing as well that felt the biggest difference for me, like we went together and we came back together.
Yeah. It was like, a full
it's just like
experience.
the whole thing, like
home that was like way too small.
Yeah.
So we were literally living in each other's
Yeah,
pockets.
it was a joke.
And then
Shuey got the shittest camp I've ever seen. Like, I was so embarrassed. I didn't even want to turn up.
You need to get a better one for the rest of them.
Yeah, right. Well, hopefully
we've got a sponsor on board, haven't we?
Yeah.
Clive Ward.
But,
it is like,
like
if we had even if we had a shit week and we like finished crap, like which like we didn't, we finished 8th, which is it wasn't great. Like genuinely,
really luck,
we had like.
But considering the cards you were dealt with, to get 8th in your first experience as a team together, yes, you'd ridden with Tom before.
Our pace suggested we should have.
If you looked into it, which 100%, like 100%. That's the thing, that if you properly look into it, which no one will want to, first of all, watch a race for 24 hours or then sift through like 800 laps or whatever you've done. But if you actually look at it, it is like, it's always that thing. I think as a rider, like you always want, you know, like the fastest lap of the race, or you want like, I don't know, like the most impressive something or whatever. But if you actually look and dissect like every single lap, we actually did like a really good job. And it's hard for a rider to say, oh yeah, actually we did a good job. But like overall we were so consistent. And we all said, like, if we can stick to a pace and sit there, like we know we will be there or thereabouts.
It's the same though with like most certainly at the pointier end of most of the classes at BSB, for example. Like, you know, you can be like, I don't know, at Silverstone like 15th in Superbikes, but you're only like not even half a second off of the first lap.
Like the top 10 this year were separated by like
like that's all you look at. Like, I think other racers would appreciate and will definitely know that obviously it's actually, it does lend itself to us having some good results in the future. And that gives loads of promise.
Bearing in mind, we've never really, like, I've done a track day at Le Mans, but then Tom and Shuey had never seen it, so it's like, it's easy enough going, we've had like loads of time on the bike, but even on the last session, you're still learning new stuff.
The three of you haven't been together to do that. You know, you spend time together, but this is a different.
That's why we
knew each other were pricks, but just
not as bigger pricks as like.
Did you guys ever think like you're gonna strangle each other at some point?
Oh yeah, let me tell you one story.
Okay, come on then.
Shuey absolutely lost his head. It was so funny. He's literally the biggest bitch you've ever seen.
Go on then, what's the story?
No, we were he wanted to get a photo for this Super Socko thing, and like, I am really bad, so I wind people up, but people can't tell when I'm joking. Tom can, but in all fairness, I was proper.
But you were just being a prick. Then,
there was like 8 pictures, and like we got the bike on the stand, and then
Paul, just wanted to get out of the way. Like,
he really wanted to get it done.
We just done the press thing for the Eurosport.
Done
the team thing. Like
which we relate for every single thing.
Then they do a photo of like all of the teams on the start.
Then on the start, then in the garage or something.
So you've done all this like conformity stuff running around. Like,
getting in and out your levers and that. Yeah.
Like, we may as well get together. But by this time, the fucking air had got to this one's head. And all of a sudden,
once I start winding someone up, I can't stop. That's what my brother used to punch me all the time.
Him and Tom, like, he was just setting Tom off.
Once me and Tom get like, but it's the same. Like if whoever's there's always 2 people like winding someone up.
So basically, you acted like a 5-year-old.
Then Shuey just. It was proper funny, and it was like being like a fight. Always like being in like a relationship, you know. And they like when you come back, like, I'm really sorry.
I'm really sorry. Start groveling.
Overall, though, we got on.
Like
so
mint,
well,
yeah.
Like, honestly, jokes aside,
we're all so different, but got on so well. That's what's
like,
quite funny.
It actually works like perfectly, and the pace wise as well.
Yeah,
like
David was by far the fastest, like in the last session.
Yeah, I think. I did do about 6 seconds of lap. On the lap record. No,
that's one thing I was going to say. Actually,
Red Black next season.
I was going to say that's one thing that it does really show you, like with racing, like putting a different like twist. What you see when you go into like endurance racing is like when you go racing or go to a track day, what everyone looks at just one single lap time.
Yeah.
Whereas like what you realise is like race pace, like an actual like if you can be consistent, like if
Yeah,
someone
the
could do half a
consistency of your
second
riding.
slower than the fastest lap, but do the same one every single time.
Yes,
and
yeah.
that's what you realise in MotoGP, like when you see like the Bang Nais and
Yeah,
like their time, it's
bang on,
like
isn't it?
it's so impressive, and that is what wins you races. Like
Yeah.
obviously qualifying and stuff, but qualifying in our thing doesn't really mean anything.
No.
So it's weird because like BSB, you're always building up for just like a lap time, aren't you?
Yeah.
Really?
Because it's like with endurance, you can't win it on the first lap. You can't. Well, Greg Black thought
you can lose. Yeah, but that's what we said, wasn't it? Our qualifying unfortunately got like messed up because it was wet.
Okay.
And it was like drying, and then we were still on wet. So then, because you got to take 2 riders' times, then the next session was like pretty much dry, and then Tom's session was wet. So then we ended up starting where we should have started. If we had had our actual times, we'd have started like top 5.
Yeah.
But then we were like, you're not going to make it. Even if you start dead last, you can still quite easily win the race.
Yeah, and you qualify, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's only a start-finish straights, you know.
That's it, yeah.
So, obviously, you started. That initial thought of, I've got to go and get this bike really fucking quickly, but I also can't mess it up. How was...
What, at the start of the race?
Yeah.
Oh, it was so embarrassing, honestly. It was like...
Fucking hell! What was going through your mind at that point?
It's a tough one at the start of the race. I said to both of you, didn't I? Like, I didn't want to feel any pressure.
Like,
I normally start like really well in most races, but when I think the main thing is just like staying out of trouble. Like when you think like Bradley Smith last year, you know, he's like super experienced, obviously MotoGP rider for factory teams. Like, you know, his experience like doesn't even bear thinking about in comparison to mine, and yet he was able to find himself in a really tricky position. I know that was down to a bit of a fault on the bike, but that can happen to anybody on the grid, and it does. And it's not, you know, when people say about, like, you go out for a Sunday ride and people go, be careful, you go, yeah, it's all right, I know my limits, and they go, yeah, but it's not you, it's everyone else on the road.
Yes.
Well, that couldn't be more real at the start of the endurance race, because like everything, it's like dominoes, and this, like, a guy went down mid-pack, like, probably in the top 15, somebody went down on the start.
It was just ahead of you guys, wasn't it?
That was a Wojcik bike, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it was Kevin Manfredi on a Wojcik bike.
He went down, and literally, like, all I saw was just this bike sideways. Like, I'm heading straight towards, flat out there in first gear. And then all of a sudden, you've got to make a decision. You're trying trying to calculate where this bike's going, where the rider's going. There's 64 bikes starting.
Yeah, so you got another like 30 odd people behind you.
At least 30 people behind you, which is probably the depth of most grids.
Yes,
at BSB, which is busy enough. Like, you know, so you're right in the thick of like a load of trouble just about to unfold. Because
obviously, then the incident of Greg Black and Josh Hook. Did you see that happen?
No, not at all. I was fucking way back.
Got me binoculars out there, boy.
It's quite interesting because the top EWC boys, they literally, like, I don't know if you've seen...
Their bikes start so fast.
Yeah.
They
hop on them and they start.
Short circuit racing.
Yeah.
For as long as possible. And like Silvan Guintoli alluded to it in the Chase of the Racing pod.
Yes.
About, he said that, like, this new kind of strategy now is about almost treating it like a short circuit race to put pressures on the other teams, because the more that other teams are under pressure, the more likely
mistakes
harder to then make mistakes. And once you've almost forced everybody into a mistake, if that goes your way, and it doesn't play out that way, which obviously it didn't for Silvan at the start of the race, or Greg Black even.
Yeah.
But yeah, you end up like. You know, then you can sort of ride a bit more conservative and be a bit more calm and, you know, run with a strategy. But it was interesting to hear Silvan say that, because I definitely didn't have that approach. Like at the start of Le Mans, I definitely just wanted to keep my nose clean and just bring it home for the first stint. That was my main objective. Yeah. But I think listening to Silvan talking about that, like, next race, I'm just going to run it straight up the inside of everyone.
Just treat it like a Caddies race.
Just they're going to call me T-Bone Shoey after the next round.
There was one crash where, I can't remember who it was, so many fucking names to remember, where a guy went wide, went straight over the gravel, then as he came back on circuit and took someone else
I see that. That was a stocker, wasn't it? Yeah, they took out a guy in a Kawasaki.
Well,
that was pretty bad.
I don't.
But there was oil on the track.
Yeah, so that was the one.
That's when Depunia and that went straight on, wasn't it?
That was. I was actually out in that stint because I came up.
You can't.
Straight.
It's
basically,
so.
whenever you're on track, carnage happens as well.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's one thing I would say that I didn't realise it was going to be as bad as, like, not really over watching a full endurance race, was like how many bikes blow up, how many people like not actually really many people crash through, like, basically like pushing too hard or having like a crash, apart from Shuey, like just fucking but like genuinely people don't like it's problems like with a bike is usually what causes a crash, because no one really like crashes in that sense. So and it's like a bike blowing up. How many bikes must have blown up in that race?
Yeah,
like 10 bikes.
I had at least 2.
Like there must have been 10 bikes blow up or like have problems like with oil cooler pipes and stuff. Well, which then obviously people you just crash on without even, you're just riding round, mind your own business, and then next thing you're on the floor.
Yeah. Well, if you think about it, in a BSB race, how many people run into issues? And that's what, 20-30 minutes.
You imagine a bike is literally running for 24 hours. It never it switches off for what? Maximum like 15 seconds, 20 seconds. Yeah. It's off and then it's back on and then just flat out. Like it's actually pretty insane what the engines go through and like how you can see why obviously there's so many issues with bikes.
Yeah. Because it's so demanding on the bike that are you kind of waiting for something to go wrong? Like,
no, I think that if you rode like that, you would be like, I did that after my session because I didn't know at the time what had gone wrong. So then I was thinking like, like if say something has gone wrong with my bike, how do I know it's not going to happen again? Do you know what I mean? But then if you ride like that, I was riding like 2 or 3 seconds off what I was doing, and then as I got to halfway through the session, I thought you can't. If you ride like that, there's no point in us even being out there. So you've just got to you've just got to trust it and go.
I think we are quite lucky. Like our team, they are.
You can't believe how fast they can fix stuff.
They've got a really good statistic that I'm pretty sure is they're the only people to have, and they have finished every single race they've started. So like,
since like 1996.
This goes back like 20 odd
That's
years.
a team you want behind you.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It is like when they say the tortoise and the hare, it is literally that in endurance racing. Yeah. Like I'm not like the boys in front of us, ADSS. They did a mega job. Yeah. Like they finished 7th. Like but like they were just dead consistent. Like they had a problem at the beginning as well, but it just shows like if you can keep mega consistent and just stay like you just. If you go around and you just think I've just got to be so hard because obviously you need to be pushing. Yeah. And sometimes when you don't push, you actually are more likely to have a crash, aren't you? Because like
and they had some bad luck as well, really.
At the beginning of the race,
I think they had something like four pit stops in 3 laps.
Like extra, 3
pit stops.
So they had a crash at the beginning, and most people would be like, "Oh, they're out of the race," but then they ended up finishing 7th. So it shows it's like
what feels like 10 minutes later, which was probably like 5 hours later.
Yeah,
they were only like 2 or 3 places behind us. And you're like, how the fuck is that happening?
And if you like look at lap times again, you'd be like, oh, like 1 lap time, they're not actually as quick. But if you stay consistent, like even if you're doing like a 41 or 42 round like Le Mans, but you stay like that, even when you go out of the pits and on your in lap, like if you can stay that consistent, you're making up so much time. Yeah. If I sit at like a 39 for the whole stint, which is what 30 laps, that's 30 seconds, you could literally make or gain on an out lap and an in lap easily like 15 seconds, couldn't you?
So when you obviously have those crashes and you had those setbacks and you were losing a few laps to people, like how did you find when you both went out knowing that you've got to make up a lot of time? Did you think I've got to stay consistent? Or
we never had that. I think I was actually saying this earlier to Tom, that I think if we'd started the race, like say we had qualified in like the top 3 and we got away and like going into the night we were top 3, you're going to be so much more like alert. And because we started down and we were slowly building, I think we got into 6th before my crash, wasn't it?
We did,
We got into 6th and we were like, this is obviously quite good. We were still quite a way off the leaders, but not like mental. Then we had the crash and then it's almost like you can then relax because then it's almost like, it'll be impossible for us to win the race now. But then in reality, we would have actually, if we hadn't have had that crash and we had stayed on, we would have been on the podium. So even with a 35-minute,
other people's misfortune, if nothing else.
which is crazy because we only dropped 1 space when I had the crash, went back out and was in 7th, and then you kind of think, oh, the race is over. But if you always think, oh, there's still a chance that we can do well here, which we would have done, wouldn't we?
Yeah.
And then Shuey just literally decided to just launch up the road for no reason.
Literally just
he was just like got fed up.
For everyone. So that's what I did.
So did you crash the bike?
I did, yeah.
But then we ended up still, even with his crash and my crash, we lost an hour and 5 minutes. Was it longer than that?
How bad was yours?
An hour and a half.
Yeah.
I had and my that was really annoying.
He pulled the crash, other oil cooler pipe off just to crash.
Prove a point.
On that and just said to everyone that I got sent to the moon. No, I had there was one set of discs that seemed to be in circulation that somehow got back into circulation.
Or it's a wheel. I think it was a bent wheel.
Whatever it was, there was one front wheel that
something that should have been in there.
It was something to do with the brakes. Basically, as soon as you touch the brake, it was pumping really bad. And in the night, was it in the night? No, it was in the.
It was like early in the morning, wasn't it?
And it was one of the first light stints, and went out. It's freezing cold anyway, so like, you're not necessarily like pushing because you know the track temp's going to be a lot less. And I was just trail braking into a corner, and it was on my outlap, so it wasn't even like you're pushing, but with a full tank of fuel, the front brake it just like it pumped on the way into this corner, and the next thing it just folded and. It did like an unjustifiable amount of damage.
For where it crashed as well, it's probably like the slowest corner on the track. Like if you crashed at like turn 2 at Snare, you would just like if a front ender, you would just slide, pick the bike up. You could literally stay on the side, pick the bike up, and carry it on. But yours, it went over, didn't it?
Well, the other thing is like the experience of our team, which is why they've got the statistic that they have in terms of like longevity and finishing the races, is because of their mindset. It definitely differs to mine. Like so. That crash, they didn't need to change the rads. They didn't need to do. I don't think.
Yeah.
Like I had that little crash that I had. I tucked the front. They change things precautionary. Like if it's going to be in anyway, they'd rather take an extra 2 minutes
and then change something else.
And change something that's potentially going to be fractured or broken to save that. Whereas our short-sighted mentality would have definitely I was literally going, oh, that's all right.
Like, just leave it as it is, and then carry on.
And go off.
Yeah, but when you think about it, like you forget that you're then going to go off potentially for another 4 hours, which could be like 3 rounds.
And one little bit could just
and by that
ruin
point
that
you've done
race.
like 3 pit stops because something's gone wrong and they haven't fixed it all at once, and it's
like that I would have definitely oversighted.
Yeah.
If it was left to my stupid devices, but. Luckily, we've got a really good team with loads of experience.
It is mad how quick, and everyone's got like a job, so like everyone knows what they're doing. Like if someone's on handlebars, they change like a whole. It's a bit like in Superbike, they have a whole handlebar set up ready, all made up, and it's literally everything's quick release. So you can't have a spare
bike, but you can have it pre.
What they do is at the beginning, you have 2 bikes which you can use for practice and qualifying. Then you basically choose the better bike, which is always like the number 1 bike is usually better. But then as soon as they do the start, and they knew, like, as soon as they do the start, they wheel the spare bike out the back. Then they basically strip it within an inch of its life. Yeah. So if, say, like an engine goes, but if an engine blows up, you can't take another engine and put it back in. No. You actually have to take the engine cases that have blown up and physically rebuild the engine, which is mental.
And on the Chasing Racing podcast, the most recent one, Christian Iden spoke about them on. And he said that the safety car is nothing like BSB safety cars. It was taking the piss. Like
how slow it is.
Yeah. Do you find it like really frustrating? Like otherwise the tyres are going to get cold.
At all. I think the only thing
I only got one. Tom Oliver had about 12 safety cars. You had about 4.
I had quite a few.
I had one for like 1 lap.
Literally 2 or 3 in
the
first stint to start.
I remember that. Yeah.
And like obviously you're mindful of the tyres getting cold and everything else, but everyone's in the same boat.
Yeah.
But the bit that was really gutting, where it was unfortunate, was like they deployed 2 safety cars. So that's going to be different because of the size of the field. So there's 64 bikes on the grid. Like they have to separate. They can't have everybody behind one safety car initially. So they have 2 deployments of safety cars at 2
exactly the same time. And then they sit exactly the same speed. That's why Christian's probably saying, because you can't have one overtake the other.
Halfway through the safety procession, so when whatever it is that they're doing, as soon as they've got it under control, they bring one of the safety cars in, and then the rest of the group merges. Depending on where you have your safety car, depends on whether you're at the front or the back of it. So, for an example, I was right for a lot of the safety cars. I was right behind
the safety car. So if you're right at the back, you've actually made an advantage
because you've made a whole
because
lap.
you've made up or half a lap.
Okay.
That's why on the first 3 times we had it, he was like the 4th person, but it's double disadvantage really because you've lost to the people in front of you. So if someone's just nipped ahead of you and missed that safety car, they're going to be on the back of the next one. So they've made up half a lap. But as well, if you're like the 1st, 2nd, 3rd rider behind, you've got no marker or margin of people to how hard to push. So it's really easy for someone to crash.
Second safety car, I was following, like, there was 3 bikes in front, right? There was like, so I'm mindful of, like, you need to get some heat back in your tyres, take it easy. And you come over the pit, over the line, and the pit board says cold tyres. And then, literally, we came into the next left-hander, and the bike right in front of me tucked the front, like, until it had cold tyres. Then I was like, oh shit! Like, obviously not, like, we haven't got enough heat in them yet to push on. And it was at the start of a stint, so there was like quite a lot of fuel in the bike as well. And then we come to the next corner, and the bloke in front of him, he tucked the front. And I was like, oh my God, there's only one person there in front. And we're setting the pace for everybody behind us. So that was touch and go, because then you do actually have to think, oh bugger, like this is.
You have almost, again, it's like the start thing. You're actually better off, rather than being a hero for 2 laps and overtaking everyone. You're actually almost better getting overtaken by everyone than seeing if people crashing or whatever. Because you're not going to make up. Even if you made up half a lap again, you're going to, like, if you have risk crashing, you're going to lose way more time. It's just using your head when you're out on track.
And like, how are you feeling heading into? So you're at Donington this weekend.
Next weekend.
Next weekend.
We're just going to do like a bit of practice with No Limits, British Endurance, with me, Tom and Chewy.
We decided that, like, we're going to do a bit of a UK. We've got some good bikes. We've gone with the GSXR 1000 stock bikes, which we've acquired from mostly from Hawk Racing, from their last year's stock bikes. So like, they're good pedigree bike, and they're well built and everything else, and well tested. And the only reason we're doing it is to try and obviously stay bike fit for the endurance bike for the TRT. So we've decided we're going to do 4 BSB wildcards in the stock 1000 class.
Okay.
And which we haven't really done, like, publicised at all yet. And we're going to do 2 or 3 of the No Limits Endurance. So, and this is all just like, obviously we want to be pushing, like, particularly on these bikes, because they're not they're our practice bikes. So this is like, we want to stay sharp, and that's where the British paddock is, like, where it's at, because the No Limits Endurance is just straight testing for us, really. So we're going to do it on Dunlop tyres, just to stay familiar with those. But that's the first round for us, is the 700 kilometre endurance next weekend at Donington. So we're looking forward to having to go out on our own bike, something really. Me and Tom, obviously, when we met you down at Lyddon, did a bit of instructing last weekend, and then we've got next week is the Donington 700 kilometre endurance. After that, we've got a few weeks until Spa.
We're going to Spa and then do a couple of track days.
We'll do a pre-test, and then the endurance weekend. So that'll be round 2 for us. We've also got after that, we're going to do Brown's GP for the BSB, and hopefully we've got, well, we're trying to line something up at the moment with Eric, the team boss, which we're really sort of hoping and praying on with Suzuka, to go into Suzuka in August as a stock team.
We need some sponsors.
Oh yeah,
massive sponsors. Quite cool, because that is one thing. Like, obviously ADSS, they're like a British team, like they're a British UK team, and then they've got saying that, they won't have all British riders, will they? But they're kind of in the same boat as us. So we're all like out there representing the UK. So it'd be quite cool to get, you know what I mean? Like, it's difficult with getting sponsors from the UK to help out with stuff which is like international. Because even sponsorship is what it is, isn't it? Like, not many.
I think ultimately, like, we're not trying to earn money out of riding motorbikes. Obviously, it would be nice for it to be cost neutral. Would be ideal.
But it's just the same.
Year we've spent a fortune, not only of our own money, but going out and seeking sponsors.
Yeah.
But we're three lads that have been used to racing competitively. Like obviously Tom's been like pushing for stock podiums and stuff, and Tom Oliver's done stock 600 Super Sport and then stock 1000 with real good teams, and has also been Tom's teammate. I won my championship in the Ducatis last year, and obviously that's finished now as well.
Yeah.
So like we're all like really sharp riders that want to continue that. But obviously it is really expensive.
You can't do it without
the thing
backing,
is, it's like anything. It's the same with BSB. It's the same with any championship you go into. If you went and won the lottery tomorrow and won £2.5 million, you could go and get the best bikes, the best personnel, the loads of track time, and like you obviously stand the best. It's the same in anything.
Yeah.
Like if we went out, we went and got like 4 brand new Hondas, and we went out to Spa and did 2 weeks track time, like you could almost guarantee that we would, barring any problems, you would be so competitive. But obviously that's ours is more of a ours is a bit probably like ADSS's, with the fact that it's like a bit of a journey. Like it's all the people there together to have fun. It is obviously like you want to do well, but it's about the people and the partners who come on board and help out, and like it is enjoyable for everyone. Like you look at all the people who, like you in TRT, you see all of the Eric calls them the partners, doesn't he? And there's just all these people who are like absolutely buzzing to be there, and they might only put in like 250 quid or whatever, but the whole thing is just such a great like experience for them, and like that is the passion behind it, isn't there?
100%. There's everybody like a family, even though they're friends. There's a massive language barrier.
Yeah.
Like, for all we know, they could be just called us.
They literally are as well.
But but no, like it's great crack, and everyone does it for the right reasons. And obviously for if we did have a good sponsor that actually saw the three of us and thought, fucking hell, I'm going to back these guys. Like there's plenty of sponsors in British that I've even had. Tom's had various other people that have been kind enough to get involved. Yeah. But they're like few and far between now.
It's getting smaller and smaller.
Yeah. And like the financial climate's not great for everybody out there and stuff. But genuinely, this is something different. Like there's apart from ADSS, there isn't another British team in the endurance, in the world endurance, and there certainly isn't 3 competitive in any class. Like no matter what class we go into in British. And that'd be a very contrasting opinion, I'm sure. But we'd be able to hold our own in any class and probably excel. In fact, I think, and I think we're showing that and demonstrating it in the stock class in a new championship that we're like unaware of. But if we had some backing and some help to even carry on with some testing and to really brush up on our skill and hone in on it, we do genuinely have a chance of putting it on the box at every round of the World Endurance. So that's our goal, that's our aim.
And one thing I always ask guests on Untrapped Mind is if you had to give advice to a certain group of people. So for you, if you had to give advice to someone who's going to go to their first endurance round, what would you tell them?
Take earplugs.
Okay.
What's the name for them in French? Blanc.
Oh, I don't know.
Blanc Claudes.
Obviously, like Tom doesn't need earplugs because his hair covers his ears.
It's like wadding, just like stuff it in my ears.
But
that's what I do to stop listening to Shuey when he carries on talking.
Genuinely, at Boldor, and I think you can believe it either. At Boldor, when Tom Oliver, we shared a motorhome there, and this bike started on Tuesday, I think. And bear in mind, the qualifying doesn't even start till Thursday, and then the race doesn't even start till Saturday, right? So on the Tuesday leading up to it, which is a whole week gig, which is something else that's different, this bike started and just was pinging off the rev limiter. And he was like,
that's what it was like.
He literally went, sick, someone's having it on their bike. And I went, geez, that's going to go. Stop now. No. That's the start. That's the first
That's the mental thing, though.
What do you mean? And it's literally, you can't sleep, can you?
Because it's so important to sleep, like especially before the 24-hour. Like you want to have a good night's sleep. But we turned up on the Tuesday, and it started on it was on the Tuesday, wasn't it? Yeah. And then for 4 nights, I could genuinely had like 4 hours sleep, like on average per night, which is obviously nowhere near enough. And then on the last night, I had a good night's sleep. But you imagine not being able to sleep for like 5 nights. And then you've got to do a 24-hour race. Like you can't. It's mentally just like
earplugs.
Earplugs.
What's your
not even earplugs and headphones and a fan, and
yeah, there's massive fucking ear defenders.
Thank you guys for listening, and thank you guys for giving me your time. It's been a long old recording. So yeah, good luck for the next couple rounds.
thank you very much.
Thank you.